Outreach and Engagement Specialist with CPRG team. And I'm joined today. I have David Stratton, who is the project manager, and I have Robin Barrows, who is the supervisor for CPRG. So I am, again, going to go ahead and begin. I'm going to go over the agenda as well as a few house rules. So I will go to the next slide. So a few guidelines that we have in place. Number one, all attendees will be muted during the webinar. Attendees that are joining the via WebEx application should use the chat to submit questions, and questions will be addressed during the Q&A if not covered during the presentation. For those calling in, you may raise your hand by pressing the *3, and then if you press the *3 again, that will lower your hand. We will request to unmute you, and then once that happens, you'd press *6 to unmute or mute yourself. This webinar is being recorded and will be made available later. And we also recommend that if you are calling in, we actually recommend that you, to participate in all the features of the meeting, that you join in on the application rather than calling in if you are able to. And then next, I'm going to go over the agenda. So we'll start off with introductions. I gave a brief introduction already to myself, again, David and Robin. We would then talk about greenhouse gases 101. We'll do a little fact checking where we'll discuss energy consumption, benefits. We will then talk about the Climate Pollution Reduction Grant, or CPRG, where we'll give you a program overview and talk about project phases 1 and 2. Also, project phase 3 will follow that. Later, we'll talk about the public engagement and outreach, followed by the timeline, then data gathering and ideas, and then we'll end it discussing next steps. So we are going to start off by doing a poll of what do you know. So this poll is on menti.com. That's the code listed right there, 8783-6400. Or if you are able to scan the QR code with your phone, you can do that. So the poll question 1 is asking, what level of knowledge do you have about greenhouse gas emissions, where they come from, and how they impact our daily lives and our climate?
So I'll give a couple more minutes for some folks to answer the question for the poll. Again, if you would like to use your browser, you can go to menti.com, enter the use code up there at the top above the QR code. If you want to use your phone, you're welcome to use the QR code as well. And in a few minutes, we'll go ahead and show the results of the poll. So we have 6 people that feel somewhat knowledgeable about greenhouse gas emissions and how they impact their daily lives and our climate. That's excellent. Very good. So next up will be Robin. Robin will go ahead and take us through the next few slides in the agenda, and she'll be sharing some basic 101 about greenhouse gases and their impact on the environment in North Carolina.
Perfect. Thank you, David. Thank you, Brittany. I want to start by saying I think it's fabulous that we have participants who know about greenhouse gases and have somewhat of an understanding on how they impact our environment. So basically, greenhouse gases are gases that protect the earth from the rays of the sun. And They're caused by things burning or combustion, items that contain carbon, nitrogen, or oxygen. The good greenhouse gases, like I said, helped reflect rays from the sun and then trap some of those rays to keep the earth warm. So that helps regulate the temperatures on our planet. The bad greenhouse gases are the excessive gases that happen from human activities and this results in disruptions in climate change and changes the weather patterns. So we have an increase in those extreme weather patterns like hurricanes and wildfires, which are not good. Next slide. So, like I said, we burn carbon and we burn fossil fuels for certain things, so humans can stay comfortable, right? So, in the United States, about 74% of the greenhouse gas emissions come from burning fossil fuels for energy use. As you can see, in 2005, those sources of fuels to burn for electricity specifically, majority of them came from coal. Those emissions came from coal. And the other majority came from natural gas. Well, if you fast forward another 15 years, the majority of the emissions from burning these fuels are coming from natural gas, and a fewer amount are coming from coal. What I'd like to point out is the increase in solar, wind, and geothermal in these last 15 years. So when we use those types of they're called renewable energy, then we don't have greenhouse gas emissions. So I'll tell you a little story. So one of my friends said that he came home one night and the house was dark and he knew his wife was home and he was like, "Hello, are you home?" And she says, "Yes, I'm just taking a shower." And he was like, "Okay." He's like, "Why is the house dark?" And she says, "Well, I'm saving electricity." Somebody can't hear anything. Okay, I'm gonna keep going. Um, she says, "I'm saving electricity." And he was like, "Oh, okay." And then he was like, "Well, how was your shower?" And she's like, "It was cold. I took a cold shower." And he was like, "Well, why did you do that?" She was like, "Well, I was saving more electricity by, showering in the dark and taking a cold shower." So just remember, the cheapest form of energy is that you don't use, right? So let's go to the next slide. I want to talk about some of the benefits for reducing greenhouse gas emissions. So everybody says, "Oh, they're bad. We can't have renewables. We can't do this. We can't do that." Well, guess what? Job growth in North Carolina in 2023 grew across the board. It grew because of clean energy jobs. Energy efficiency type jobs went up. That's where you replace light bulbs in an industry with light bulbs that use less electricity. So remember my shower story, less electricity, less greenhouse gas emissions, right? So clean vehicles, electric vehicles. A lot of people hear a lot of stories about electric vehicles. Well, that industry is also growing. So in North Carolina, it grew by almost 6% in 2023. North Carolina is the 9th state in the nation for clean energy jobs. 9th. We're only behind California and Texas because they have they have a lot of regulations, state regulations in place. But we're 9th in the nation. And that's in part because of some of the regulations that have been put in place and some of the innovative strategies that have been used to improve these jobs. Excellent. So another benefit of reducing greenhouse gas emissions is reducing air pollution. So these two graphs are air pollution over time On the left is carbon dioxide emission trends from fossil fuel combustion. On the right are all of the what we call criteria air pollutants from all sectors. What do I mean by all sectors? That's transportation, that's electricity, that's agriculture, that's forestry. Those are all the different sectors that have air pollution going into the air. So as you can see, all of those are coming down. Some of that is in part to federal regulations that have been put in place over time. Some of that is in part due to strategies and plans that states have developed, that North Carolina has developed and has put in place. I want to point out that that small peak that's in 2008 for some of the emissions was from a lot of the wildfires that were happening. So we do see peaks from natural sources of air pollution. But I'd like to point out that a lot of these are coming down. So we want to continue to keep them coming down. Next slide. All right, I'm going to turn it back over to David so he can tell you about the Climate Pollution Reduction Grant and the reason why we're here talking to you tonight.
Thanks, Robin. Again, my name is David Stratton. I'm actually the administrative project manager for the grant. So I'm here tonight to talk to you a little bit more about the program as it is in North Carolina, some of the deliverables that are there, and how we are working to try to create climate action plans that actually outline ways to reduce greenhouse gases to a target of net zero by 2050 across all of North Carolina. So what some of you might remember hearing is that Congress introduced and passed the Inflation Reduction Act. And within the Inflation Reduction Act, the EPA received $4.6 billion for national projects around climate pollution reduction planning. And we, as a state of North Carolina, were lucky to receive some of those funds. The EPA targeted states, local governments, territory, and tribes for this funding, and had a very robust and large turnout across the country. And the whole point and the initiative behind the Climate Pollution Reduction Grant is to actually develop climate action plans to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and other harmful air pollutants to targets that the EPA and your individual states have set. And for the state of North Carolina, we are looking for a net zero target in 2050, which means that our total greenhouse gas emissions will be reduced to net zero across all 6 sectors of our North Carolina economy. And I'll explain a little bit more about those in a minute, as well as being offset by our natural ability to reduce and absorb carbon and harmful air pollutants through the environment. So in 2023, North Carolina was given $3 million by the US EPA, and we were given that money through the Department of Environmental Quality. That department started to put forth a plan and a strategy to reflect into the grant, and we became an interagency collaborative effort to produce our very first priority climate action plan. So we worked with the Department of Transportation, we're working with the Department of Commerce, and we're even working with the Department of Natural and Cultural Resources, and DEQ is serving as the lead to create the plans through this grant. There are 3 phases of the project, and those 3 phases are actually related to the deliverables. So I'll give you an idea about how the timeline for these deliverables plays out. So again, in July of 2023, we received our $3 million in CPRG planning grant funds. We immediately turned around and started to get to work to try to figure out how we would pull together the first deliverable of the phase plan, which was the Priority Climate Action Plan. So that actual plan was due to the EPA in March of 2024. An interim step between our funding and the actual production of that plan was to target and isolate priority measures that the plan would encompass, and those measures would be projects, ideas, strategies, anything that the state or the community, local governments across the state, community-based organizations and private people were doing that when those plans, projects, and strategies were implemented or introduced would have an impact on reducing greenhouse gases somewhere in North Carolina. So we made an attempt to try to articulate and pinpoint those priority measures. We rolled those priority measures into a more comprehensive priority climate action plan again that was submitted to the EPA on the 1st of March. The second phase, or the deliverable within the grant, is actually an implementation work plan. So while we identify priority measures to reduce greenhouse gases to net zero by 2050, we needed a way to do that. And the way that we did that was to look at any shovel-ready project that had an impact on greenhouse gas emissions across the state. The state of North Carolina DEQ worked with local governments, private people, community-based organizations, and private industry to identify a list of shovel-ready implementable projects that we had an ability to articulate and identify. And we submitted an implementation work plan to the EPA in April of 2024 to the tune of $199.9 million. And we requested that funding to be able to move those greenhouse gas measures and targets to that net zero target in 2050 by implementing a large range of projects across the state to the tune of almost $200 million. Now, we were not funded for that project, but we did have a sister organization, the North Carolina Department of Natural and Cultural Resources, that is part of a 4-state coalition to impact and to preserve and protect our natural working lands. And natural working lands have a wonderful natural way of absorbing greenhouse gases and air pollutants. And the Department of Natural and Cultural Resources received $420 million to be part of a 4-state coalition with South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, and Maryland to take big steps in preserving and protecting our natural working lands so that we've got some resilience to climate change and a big impact to offset any growth in greenhouse gas emissions that we might have between now and 2050. Then the last phase of this project is, and that's the project that will be, or the phase that we'll be talking about tonight in the project, is to actually produce a comprehensive climate action plan. And that action plan will be submitted hopefully the 1st of December of 2025. So how we actually looked at our measures and how we determined our measures, where we had 4 considerations for each measure that became part of our plan. We had to make sure that it had a quantifiable ability to reduce greenhouse gases to meet our net zero target. We had to make sure that whatever measurement and project or implementation piece that we were going to include in our plan would also have an air pollution benefit. We also had to make sure that it was ready to be implemented. And we also had to make sure that it had a tangible benefit to underserved and underrepresented communities all across North Carolina. So this slide represents where all of our greenhouse gases come from. And if you are familiar with our priority climate action plan, you'll know that we identified 6 sectors across the North Carolina economy where we know we've got some sort of greenhouse gas emissions. And you'll see that we've got transportation, electricity, industry, agriculture and waste, home and commercial buildings, and then again, that natural and working lands that has the ability to offset the greenhouse gas emissions through what we call carbon sinks. And that's the ability for the environment to absorb carbon from the atmosphere and to reduce greenhouse gases as an offset. So our next polling question that we would like to get some feedback and input from you is, how have you helped to reduce greenhouse gases? And what are some of the steps and actions that you are taking to help reduce greenhouse gas emissions in your own personal lives? So once again, if you would like to use the QR code in your camera on your phone, you'll be able to link directly to this poll question through menti.com. If you need to use the use code, just go to menti.com, type in that code, and you should come to our second poll question. And in a few minutes, we'll go ahead and show the results and see what kind of implementation actions you all are taking to reduce greenhouse gases on your own. So I will try to stop sharing the screen and then see if I can go over to our Menti poll. Wow. Can y'all see that? We've got a wide range of activity here. This is fantastic. This is great. We tried to make as many things as possible that, as many choices as we could to see what kind of feedback and information we would get. So it's great. That is awesome. That tells us that we've got a very large understanding or a very deep understanding and comprehensive understanding about how greenhouse gas emissions affect you individually and what steps you are willing to take to reduce them. Fantastic. Very good. All right, we'll go back to the presentation. And then this slide represents and kind of shows you what exactly we put in our PCAP as measures for targets to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. So remember when I said that we identified projects and things that were tangible, were implementable, strategies, projects, ideas. Here's how they broke out across the 6 sectors. And again, we've got transportation, electricity generation, buildings, industry, waste, and our natural working lands. So we'll come back to this slide in a different way because we're going to be asking for some of your input about some of your ideas across these sectors about other things that we could include or other ideas that we could consider. Robin, you want to tell them a little bit about how we're going to kick off our comprehensive climate action plan in phase 3 of our project?
Oh, David, I would love to do that. Thank you. So phase 3, as David alluded to, is the comprehensive climate action plan. We refer to it as the CCAP. So this is where we take what we established and developed in our PCAP and review those data and review those strategies and expand upon them. Now, the Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, has given us some guidelines for those options that are supposed to be in the CCAP. And one of the things that we definitely need to make sure is we take the goals that we put in the PCAP and we turn these goals into measures that are feasible, implementable, and measurable. So those are the things that we have that we're required to do. We also need to include some benefits for communities, and Brittany's going to talk about how we do that. But we want to make sure that we are reviewing and looking at communities that are experiencing some high energy burdens and also have low incomes and limited access to resources. So we want to make sure that those communities are included and discussed properly in our CCAP. So like some of the burdens that we will be including are air pollution, are climate change, energy, environmental hazards, housing, transportation. So some of those, and the last piece of the puzzle is the workforce development. So that's another piece that we need to include in our climate action plan. Next slide. So like I said, the EPA gave us some strategies or gave us some guidelines of what needs to be included in this CCAP. So these are the sections that are going to be included in the CCAP. And so the ones that are in blue that are highlighted here are ones that we have already reviewed because we've been working on this for a few months now. They've already been reviewed and we've already determined that we either don't need to update them at all or they need very little updating. So for instance, the greenhouse gas inventory that David showed you earlier, that was completed in 2024. It is not due again until 2026. So we'll use those data. We may refine a couple of sectors if we have more up-to-date methodology for them. However, we're probably not going to make sweeping changes in that greenhouse gas inventory. Our business as usual scenario, those are the projections from our greenhouse gas inventory that ended in 2020. So we projected from 2020 out to 2050. Those are our projected greenhouse gas emissions and under a business as usual scenario. So where we are now is identifying and screening these measure selections. So this is just the process for which we are doing it. Those first 2 green bubbles are what we've already done. Right now, we are in the section where we're collecting input from the community and other stakeholders. That's you guys. And then we will update our measures list with those projects that are feasible, implementable, and measurable. So to give you a better picture of what an economy-wide summary of greenhouse gas emissions looks like, this graph is an illustration. So we took the greenhouse gas inventory emissions. So everything on the left-hand side of this graph are the historical emissions for which we have data. Everything on the right-hand side of this graph on the blue line are those projected emissions, those business as usual project emissions. And then what's in the green line are those proposed reductions that we put in our PCAP that we just graphed here to show you that we can get to 2050 if all of those projects are funded and implemented and then measured over time. So this is one of the areas that need to be included in our CCAP. Next slide. I'm going to turn it over to Brittany and let her talk to you about our public engagement and outreach piece of the puzzle.
Thank you, Robin. So public engagement outreach. So this is where we are right now. And the purpose of the public engagement and outreach is to basically solicit your input, allow you a chance to provide feedback about the CCAP. So some of the questions, do you know of plans for your community that will help the plan meet the goals described? Do you have new ideas that will help us reach our targets either in the short term or the long term? And by providing responses to those questions, you will help us identify opportunities where we can collaborate on new or existing projects, strategies, initiatives that could further reduce greenhouse gas goals. Also, the purpose of the public engagement is for us to share and discuss updates to energy plans, executive orders, major project strategies to reduce greenhouse gas emissions across the sectors. For example, transportation, electricity, waste management, commercial and residential buildings, natural and working lands. During this process, we are including partners that are in the metropolitan statistical areas, and we will be showcasing other state energy office programs as well. So the benefit analysis. So the target, again, is to release the greenhouse gases to net zero by 2050. So once the CCAP is finished, it will offer benefits such as, listed an example here, improve public health outcomes, job creation. It will improve climate resilience, improve access to services, decrease energy costs. And you can see we have our weatherization program, which they are currently covering all of these. And then we have our Energy Saver NC, which will do the same. So again, that is the purpose, and that's what the CCAP will offer once we complete it. So we're at the, again, listening sessions and public comment, well, the listening session stage, and then we'll move into the public comment for our phase 2. But right now we're in phase 1. So again, we thank you guys for joining us tonight. This was our kickoff today, but we have some in-person meetings coming up. February the 27th, we will be in Pembroke. March the 6th, we will be in Fayetteville. March 13th, we'll be in Morganton. March 20th, Roanoke Rapids, and March 27th, Wilmington. We will be collaborating with partners, so community groups, local government organizations, and et cetera. We would then move on to phase 2, which we're proposing to begin in August. So we will be having virtual meetings where we will, just like this one, we will provide dates as well as in-person meetings. And the locations will be in Central North Carolina, Western North Carolina, Northeastern, and Southeastern. And we will be collaborating with partners as well for that. So that is a summary of our public outreach and engagement. I'm going to swing it back to Robin. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Brittany. So as we've been discussing, just to remind you of our timeline, We are right now in our stakeholder engagement timeline. And then, and in parallel to that, we're also drafting the CCAP with input from the communities, but also our technical team that we've put together. In September and November, we'll put our plan out for public comment, and then it will go through a DEQ internal review, so that leadership will have a chance to review our plan, and then we will submit it to EPA in December of 2025. So in this data gathering phase, CPRG touches a lot of different areas and a lot of different sister agencies, projects in communities and cities and counties, and also some of the projects and programs that we have ongoing in the State Energy Office. So this graphic is really just descriptive of, these are the data gathering that we want to pull together. So if you know of projects in your community that would fit in in our project, then please let us know about them. Same goes for city projects and county projects. What is shown here are some of the projects that the State Energy Office has going on right now. So Brittany mentioned the Weatherization Assistance Program and the Energy Saver NC program. These are programs that are related to buildings, either residential or commercial. And the Utility Savings Initiative also is related to buildings. So these are programs for which we are already gathering greenhouse gas emission data. We are already looking at the greenhouse gas reductions from these programs and pulling those into the CPRG project and our measures in that project. We also have programs in the State Energy Office related to industry. We have, we're working on an organic waste reduction project. We have a very, very engaged college student actually who's working on her capstone project, who's helping us put that together. And we're also looking at a couple other sectors in the waste projects in the waste sector so that we can pull those greenhouse gas reductions in there. And we cannot forget that we will also be working with our partners and our sister agency at the Department of Natural and Cultural Resources. And they are working on strategies to help protect and restore coastal habitats and floodplains. And they've listed here some examples to prioritize the climate change and sea level rise by coastal habitat restoration, and then protecting and restoring forest and wetlands with flood prone area within the flood prone areas. Excuse me, that's very hard to say. And our friend Maya is going to be going out with us to our in-person meetings, so she can stumble over those words next time. So to remind you of how you can engage with us in the chat, if you are in the WebEx application, we would love if you would put your questions or your comments in the chat. For those folks who are calling in on the telephone, I know there's a few of you, you can raise your hand by pressing *3, and that will request to unmute you, and then you have to push *6 to unmute or remute yourself. And you can push *3 to lower your hand again. Next slide. We have some questions for you if you haven't thought of anything to put in the chat by now. We want to know what work you are doing that may fit within our plan. Our plan is to reduce greenhouse gases from one of those 6 sectors. Are there other projects out there that we don't know about? How often would you like to be engaged in our process between now and August, of course? And what other public engagement opportunities might be out there for which we don't know? Are you guys having a community meeting that we could join and talk to folks about this plan? Are you having a city planning meeting? We would love to be included in some of this as far as our outreach and engagement goes. So we have the electric power section, the transportation industry, residential and commercial buildings, waste and materials management, and agriculture and natural working lands. Those are the 6 sectors that we're looking for input on for projects that are going to reduce greenhouse gas emissions.
There is a question in the chat from Lori asking, how are these plans affected by the current hostility from the federal sector?
That's a good
Yeah,
question. Thank you,
that's
Lori.
great.
I think we have
Go ahead.
we anticipated that question, and you know that things are always changing at the federal sector quite a lot lately. So what we've been told as of today is that DEQ is closely watching all and any federal actions that may change the operations of our program. And at this time, we know that funding through this program remains available. And so long as that funding remains available, we will push forward with producing our comprehensive climate action plan and have it delivered by the 1st of December in 2025.
Noelle, do we have more questions?
We do. So I can see that John Harkins has a question. He wants to know, is our group involved in rolling out the HEER program in North Carolina? If so, can you give us an update on that effort? I will say that we kind of talked about that. So in North Carolina, that's called our Energy Saver NC program. That HEER program is often referred to as the HERE program, and that is our home energy efficiency weatherization program. And we do have that program on tap to roll out. Will be giving some more information about that. You can check our website as that program stands up. We'll be looking to begin implementation on a very limited scale in 2 counties in North Carolina, and our DEQ website underneath the State Energy Office has more information about that, and we can share that with you as well.
And we also will have one of the project managers going with us to Pembroke, who's part of the HERE project. So we are going to be talking about that as we go out in person as well.
And just one more kind of caveat with that program, because that program is rolling out of the State Energy Office and is impacting residents across North Carolina and helping to improve homes and reduce energy burdens of residents within those homes and multifamily homes. We as a program will be tracking the benefits and the reduced greenhouse gas emissions attributed to that program, and those will be rolling up in our comprehensive climate action plan. So thank you for that question.
Susanna Tuttle had a question. What is the role of the utilities in the electric power sector? And how is DEQ engaging with the various IOUs, RECs, etc.?
That's a great question, Susanna. The role of the utilities is in that electric power sector. And we are following the Utilities Commission's guidelines that have been put out for Duke Power. But we are also engaging with the electric co-ops. We are researching geothermal projects, hydro projects, to see if there are benefits from any of those projects as well. So while we know that some of the there have been some changes in Duke's plan as far as when they are going to be reducing some of their greenhouse gas emissions across the board. So we will revise our PCAP based on those data. And to answer the question about the presentation being recorded, yes, this presentation is being recorded. And as soon as we are able to put the recording on our website, we will put that recording on our website. And the slide deck will also be out there for the public to see.
Do we know which are the 2 counties that Energy Saver is beginning in?
I believe one of the counties is Halifax County, and I think the other one is Cleveland County.
Yeah, Julie Woosley put an answer in the chat for that one.
When will it be rolled out past the 2 counties? I'm not, so Lisa, I'm not sure. Your question is when will it be rolled out? I'm thinking that you're asking about the North Carolina Energy Saver program. That is a big and comprehensive program. And so I think what we're also doing is rolling out all of the options underneath that rebate program. So I'm not sure how to answer your question because I don't know the official rollout, but I know that all that information will eventually be available on our website. So I would encourage you to keep an eye on that as well.
A sustainable energy undergraduate student from the College of the Atlantic, Conlon Lamb, had a question about, he is curious if CCAP could create a single organization for all North Carolina energy programs rather than having the individual programs such as weatherization, USI, and Energy Saver and CPRG.
I think that's a fabulous idea. All of the programs are housed under the State Energy Office, so they're all housed in one area. I think part of the challenge for housing them all in one place or having them all be one energy program is the different funding streams for those different programs. They're not the same. They're, for instance, some of them come from the Department of Energy, and the others come from the Environmental Protection Agency. And I see that Julie Woosley, our director, has popped on, and she probably has a much more succinct answer for that.
Thank you, Robin. Yeah, good evening, everybody. I'm Julie Woosley. I'm the director here at the State Energy Office in North Carolina, and just wanted to address a few things briefly. So, Colin, you were asking about a single organization for all those programs, and what we're working on instead is a single website where you can go and get information about all the programs, not just the ones that we're working on, but utility energy programs, all the ones that we're aware of across the state. We also currently have a website that's up and running for the homes in here that somebody asked about earlier. It is open now so that people can go online if you're interested and apply now. We have rolled it out in 2 counties, so we're kind of working the bugs out. We have a plan to roll it out across the state. I do expect that to show up on the website as early as this week. There'll be a map that shows different areas, how it's going to roll out. And the main thing that slows that down is just we have to go to each area and recruit the contractors to do the work and then make sure that they're educated so they understand how the program is going to work, make sure they have the appropriate certifications to do the work, and then put information about those folks online so that people who are interested can find those folks, get the work done. So there's a few steps there, and that's why we're doing a slower rollout on that. But we are figuring out a way. Right, this website, it's already constructed. We're still working on finishing it, but there will be a one place for you to go to get all that information. And then also what we're working on is the application process piece. So multiple of the energy programs that we're working on right now do have an income limitation to qualify. So we're going to have one place that someone can go, enter their information, and then find out all the different programs that they're eligible to apply for and to get benefits through. So I love the way you're thinking, and we are trying to get that in place, and it should be in place shortly. That plan for the Homes in Here rollout, like I said, I expect that online in the next week or so, and we'll continue to roll that program out through this year. But we will also set money aside. I've had this question too. So it's not like the last area in the rollout, there'll be no money left. No, we're setting money aside for each area across the state, so everybody will have a chance to participate. Thanks.
Thank you, Julie.
Janelle Kimbra wanted to know, are MPOs such as FAMPO and CAMPO involved? They would have a stake in the transportation section.
We have not had a discussion with them directly. We are more than happy to include them in the CCAP and hear what kind of programs that they have in place, so that we can understand what they're doing in the transportation sector. So if we have any, if you would like to connect us, Janelle, sorry, then we would be happy to take that information and reach out. And David has shared the website for those folks who had that question.
Robin, you mind if I jump in on one other question I saw from a little earlier?
Yes, ma'am.
So Susanna had a question about the role of the utilities. And just want you to know, we have 13 new programs we're standing up just in the state energy office, and we are working with the utilities in most of those programs. So we do have regular meetings set up. They have had input to this plan, and we are working with them on multiple other plans, whether that's helping us to identify folks who would qualify for the programs, working with them. There are some programs that we're working on related to grid resilience, where some of those utilities can apply for funds through our office. So we are definitely involved and engaged with the utilities. But if you have other ideas about things that you'd like to see, please share this with us. I know you have a lot of good ideas.
Thank you. I am not seeing any more questions in the chat. And I haven't seen anybody raise their hand on who has called in.
John Harkins just sent a message in the chat asking,
There we
what
go.
measures are you taking to mitigate against potential fraud in programs like HERE that will portion dollars out to contractors for the work they do on behalf of the program? For instance, contractor rates that increase during the programs.
Yeah, that's a great question, John. For the Homes and Here programs, we have an entire plan to address this, and we're addressing it in multiple different ways. So this is part of the contractor education piece. There are guidelines for some of the work. There are cost limitations, and for everything that's done, there is a whole process that's required to make sure that it's being done. It's being done correctly. So there's a quality control piece. There's a consumer protection piece. There's data protection pieces. And let me give you an example. So if, let's say, a contractor goes to a house and does an energy assessment and recommends they have a new HVAC system. So as part of that, they would have to send in information about the existing system, the new system that they plan to replace it with. They'd have to show that that work's being done with geolocated photos, and there would be follow-up to make sure that that work was done correctly. That's part of the quality control piece. So we take that very seriously. We want to make sure all these funds are used correctly. We want these programs to be efficient and to be effective. So quite a lot of thought has gone into that, and there's some information available online, but I can also follow up with you afterwards if you're interested, and give you some more information about some of those consumer protection pieces. Thank you. Great question.
Give everybody another. Oh, Mosine has also added that she hopes that we can use local contractors as we roll out the NC Saver program. Funds for training will be helpful.
Yes, we definitely want to use local contractors. And yep, we also have another program called TREC, which is a contractor training program that will provide funding for contractor training. So that could be anything from sort of basic contractor training all the way up to very specific training, such as for solar installers for other programs. Thank you. Good question.
Thank you. Excellent question. Julie, you're going to have to come to all the in-person meetings now. We'll give you guys just another minute or so if you have any. I know sometimes it takes a minute to type in a question. If you have another one, that'll be good. If not, we can go to the next slide, David. Oh, wait. For-profit utilities. Go ahead, Noel.
I was doing the same thing. The for-profit utility companies of North Carolina are only legally required to act in stakeholder interest. How are you all posed to encourage these companies to make less money in the interest of energy efficiency?
So let me start by saying they are required to do more than just act in stakeholder interest, but all that's handled by the North Carolina Utilities Commission. So definitely recommend you go to their website, look at some of the dockets and cases that they're working on, and look at the some of the plans they've put out, some of the requirements they've put out for the utilities to meet. So there is quite a bit more. I'd be happy to follow up and point you in the right direction on that.
David, would you like to go to the next slide? Oh, you are on the next slide. Sorry.
I'm just going to give people a little bit more time to answer the question. So what we really want to know is, how do you all enjoy receiving feedback? So if you could let us know how you'd like to get information about the Comprehensive Climate Action Plan, we'll be happy to consider all those methods and channels as we roll out the plan to make sure that you have an opportunity for some additional public comment when the plan has been drafted and is ready for review. So if you all have had an opportunity to either use the QR code or to enter the use code at menti.com, then we can go ahead and show some of those results. And there we go. So again, everybody likes to have those emails and digital newsletters, and the DEQ website seems to be a popular alternative. That's great. Social media as well. So we'll look at all of those and we'll factor those into our public comment period as well, and make sure that we are leveraging all of these and more to try to get as much information out to y'all as possible as we move forward.
Excellent. So our next steps are we do have a survey on our website. If you would like to go out and take this survey, it has a lot of good questions about, some of the same questions we asked you here tonight, but it also has the opportunity, if you are with a organization that has a plan already in place to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, there's a place in there for you to input that information directly into the survey. We're collecting data and analyzing those data. We're having our engagement sessions. And again, in August, we will roll this all out for a formal public comment period so that you can see what we've included in our plan matches up with what you suggested to include. And our contact information is listed here. I am the program supervisor. David is the project manager. Brittany is our outreach and engagement specialist. And Maya is with the Natural Working Lands and with the Department of Natural and Cultural Resources. And we've included her information if you have questions about that part of the presentation. I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. I'm happy that we took less time than we allotted. But if you have questions, please reach out to any of us. with questions and comments, we'll be happy to respond to those. Thank you, David, for putting a link to the survey out there. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a good night.